Hey everyone, welcome to Kingdom Builder. I'm your host, Kelly Meade, and today I'm joined by one of our 2025 artists to watch on today's Christian entertainment, Rachel DeLong. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm a little bit sleepy from classes this morning, but I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm good. It's great to have you on the show and get to talk about the music that you've released and what you still have coming up, and just like to let our audience get to know you a little bit more because I know there's probably a lot that are seeing you for the first time. So, can you share a little bit about how you first got started in music and some of the ways that God has used it in your own life?
Yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness. I started songwriting when I was in fourth grade. I just found it as like a form of emotional processing, as like therapy, and like in a way to kind of figure out the world around me. And then somebody gave me the opportunity when I was like 13, 14, something like that, to play a couple of my original songs at a show. And it was just a small festival at a church that was hosting it for the first time. And I played, they didn't even, since they had never heard me sing before, they were like, oh, well, you can start before the entire festival begins. Like, we'll hear you. And what was amazing is that they actually, after I did that slot, they said, okay, actually, we want you to close the night. Will you go on at this time? And so I did. And the band that was after me, Between Forever Love You Guys, they were like, oh, we're doing a tour in the area. Do you want to be our opening act? And I was like, what's that? Like, since I was like 13, 14, I was just like sharing a couple of my originals. And so I ended up like saying yes to a bunch of those shows. And everywhere I would go, I would just like meet the venue owner. And then they would ask me to come back and open for a different artist. I would meet that artist. They would ask me to come to a different venue. And it kind of just grew very naturally in that way of I just figured out how much I loved performing live, and God just kept opening doors for me. So it was really cool, and like continued songwriting, it's still a form of emotional therapy for me. But I didn't like set out. I was young. Like I grew up in a Christian household, but my faith still wasn't my own when I was in fourth grade for obvious reasons. And so like as things happened in my life, which is we can get into more of my testimony later, but as things kind of happened in my life, I my faith started becoming more and more serious to me since I needed questions answered. And so then when I would sit down to songwrite and be like, okay, what am I feeling, what am I thinking, it would just more and more relate to God and kind of have him intertwined with that until like I was like, oh, I guess I do Christian music now. Like, so that's kind of how I got into this kind of realm of music and kind of how God like opened doors for me to kind of do what I love. So,
Yeah, that is so cool. I love how when it's a calling on our life or when it's something that we know that's kind of like a God-given talent or a God-given gift, something that he truly wants us to be able to do for him, then he is going to make that happen and in some of the
yeah,
most unexpected ways too.
it's part of the fun, and it's just willing to be open to whatever path God puts in front of you. Like,
Yeah.
that, like, I talk about that at some of my shows. I'm like, hey, like, all it takes is you putting your gift up to God and saying, hey, like, this is what I have. This is what you gave me. Let me give that back to you. Let me let me see what you can do with this because I know it's going to be a lot bigger than anything that I could do. And so like especially since I my main message is talking towards like young girls like in like middle school, high school, because like that's what I can directly speak to. And also like young guys around that age, like I like to talk about like, hey, like your talent might not be music. It might be science. It might be engineering. It might be art. It might be something different, but that still doesn't mean like in those facets, God can use that. Like it's not just something of somebody being up on a stage and talking about God. It's you talking about it to your friends. It's you talking about it in your work. It's different things like that of just kind of being willing to put yourself out there and have that vulnerable moment. Like that's where God can use that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you definitely have like a sound that's all your own and such a powerful voice. It's been really cool getting to hear the different singles that you've released over the past year. You've had That's Who He Is, and then Clarity and Royalty. And now we have more music to look forward to with your debut EP coming out soon. Really excited about that. So I would love to take a little time to talk about each of these singles that you've released so far and hear a little bit of the inspiration and backstory behind each of them. So, first you had That's Who He Is last summer. So, how did that song start for you?
Oh, so I was on a songwriting trip in Nashville, just like every day, two times, like writing two songs a day with different people. It's just like a really fun, creative, like process and fun, creative time. And it's also nice because usually I'm writing songs by myself. So it's nice to actually have like other people in the process. And so with That's Who He Is, that was the first song that I listened back to the demo and I was like, I feel like an artist. Like, wow, that feels like me. Like, and it's about like I feel like in a lot of Christian spaces, like sometimes they expect girls to be very like quiet and that's not what I would have needed in middle school when I was going through healing from the traumas that happened to me. Um, I would have needed a girl being like, hey, this is who I am because of God. I know my worth because of God. I know my identity because of God. Like you don't need to question that. He gives it to us. And and that's kind of what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be that emboldened woman voice for Christ to say like, "Hey, yes, there's time for like the quietness. Yes, there's a lot of you need to be humble in that, but also God gives you confidence in him. If it's found in him, then that's the confidence that you should be having." And so that's kind of where That's Who He Is came from. Um like just trying to say, "Hey, this is me because of him." And just like kind of that whole identity piece is kind of like a big theme throughout a lot of my music because it's something that I struggled with a lot when I was younger. Um, and so That's Who He Is. It was so fun. It was so fun to write. I have a producer, Chad. He actually produced all the songs that are off of this upcoming EP. And he really pushed me out of my comfort zone. Like, he I'm very much like the perfectionist, like I need to make everything sound exactly how it should be, whatever. And he kind of was like, we would write a verse of That's Who He Is, and he would just be like, okay, go up and sing it. And I'm like, shouldn't we go over the lyrics, the cadence, the tune, make sure everything's right? And he's like, you got instincts, trust them, go up. And so I would, and it was so fun. Like I got to just kind of lean in to just like the creative process of it. And if I would like sing a note that was like, we were like, that's the take or that kind of thing, he had this like jar of picks, like a mason jar filled with picks, and he would take a handful and just chuck it at me, like, do that again. That was good. And like, it was just kind of a really fun process. And I hope that comes through on the music that like, it was just like, just such a fun time to be able to write that and kind of have joy in the identity that we find in Christ.
That is so true. And like you're saying about talking to kind of the younger generation, as they are still learning and discovering who they are and what their faith is to them. I think that's so important. I worked at a summer camp for several years. And so I have a heart for the younger generation as well. And getting to just kind of be like, let God be an influence through me in ways and an
Mm-hmm.
encouragement to them. So I love being able to do that and then seeing them grow as either in their skills or in their faith or whatever. It's just so awesome to see how God works in their lives. So it's really
Yeah.
cool that, music especially can do that for people too and have that influence. So songs like yours and the message that it carries is so important to continue to have.
Yeah. No, it's definitely cool to see people grow. Like I keep in touch. Like if people come to my concerts, like I I want to talk with them. Like that's why I've been asked like, "Oh, why aren't you just a songwriter?" And I'm like, because the thing about performing live that I love so much is getting to meet everybody afterwards and like hear their stories, talk about mine and be like, "Hey, you might be dealing with this really rough thing, but like this is how God like saw me through mine." And but like with like there are young people that come up to me like after shows and talk with me, and they keep in touch with me over like Instagram DMs and stuff like that, and it's just like so cool to see God just like opening those doors for them like he did for me. So
Mhm. Yeah, that is awesome. So the next single that came along was earlier this year with Clarity, and that kind of kicked off the year for new music. And I love this song. It's been so much fun to listen to. I think we all need to remember God's faithfulness and his promises to us as a child of God, that he can, break through all the noise that can fill our heads and just, kind of reassure us with his peace. So where did Clarity come from for you?
I deal with anxiety, and that's like a big part of one of the things that I am going back and forth with God on, of asking for peace and asking for his voice to be heard, because sometimes my own inner thoughts lie to me. Like people who have anxiety, they would understand this, that like it's not always the truth that we're hearing. And that's where clarity came from. It came from overthinking and just saying, "Hey God, I'm releasing my control of this. Like I need your clarity. I need your peace. I want to hear that still small voice or yell at me. I don't know. I just want to know your way of moving forward because I know that it's best. Like I trust that your plan is better than mine, which is why I want to hear yours." So like the verses talk a lot about like kind of that inner monologue of like sometimes my head gets a little too loud, like maybe that's too honest, I should have been more cautious, but like maybe there's more to this whole like life, maybe there's more to this overthinking than like what is in my head, which there is. And thank goodness that God is that peace, because like I don't know what I would have done without him. But no, so that's where clarity came from, is just kind of overthinking and anxiety and saying, "Hey, God, I know your peace for me. I know that you are it. I know that you will bring me, that you will console me. You're my protector." And so that's where that one came from.
Yeah, I love how like we have so many like words from scripture to remind us of that as well. And then to have a song to kind of go along with that, it just kind of helps to reinforce that, because we can, recall the chorus, or we can recall a verse that really sticks out and
Yeah.
repeat it to ourselves and just kind of help us through those times when it just gets way too loud in our own heads.
Yeah. And even musically, I had a lot of fun with that song. Um, for the other music nerds out there, this is one of like the only songs that I've written that goes from full time into halftime, back into full time, and then into double time, and doesn't sound weird. Like if you listen to the drum part, it's really fun. It's like, I don't know, since I love like not just like honing in on the lyrics, but also making sure that the music is something that is unique to me, something that I would listen to, something that I would like listen to and go, "Oh, that's cool." Like the bass line in "That's Who He Is," you should listen to, because Chad, my producer, did that, and I still listen to it and I'm like, how in the world did you come up with that line like during the bridge? So no, but that's something that's really cool about clarity for me.
Yeah, I think that's another part of why I was so drawn to that song in particular, is because it does sound so unique. It sounds different and it stands out from a lot of other songs out there. So it's definitely one
Thank
that everybody should
you.
go listen to.
Oh, and something that's also like a fun little snippet. So if you look at the title of it, it's actually clarity with like a period afterwards, because like it's not an unanswered question. Like God has that. And so it's the clarity that we've found in him. So that's why there's that period afterwards. And also like the C isn't capitalized, because like it's also supposed to be like yet again talking about God being that still small voice that brings us clarity. So yes, I get way too nerdy about all this stuff. I could go on about the album cover for a while with all the stuff that since I have to design all of this stuff, because um I'm an indie artist, independent artist. And so like there's like a little like scribble around my head to kind of represent the overthinking, and like the entire image is kind of in the clouds of like kind of like being your head being in the clouds with that overthinking, but the clarity is like from God. So
Yeah, I am totally like a creative nerd in general, so I love getting to see like how much the album covers and artwork and stuff can kind of add depth to the song. And I love that it actually like you had a hand in designing it. And like you said, you've been doing pretty much all of it, which is awesome. Because I think that's also another really cool creative outlet for you too, as an
oh,
artist, and
definitely.
getting able or being able to really kind of drive home what your thoughts and your message that you want to put out there is
Yeah.
by including that in the artwork for the singles and everything. That's awesome.
Yeah, I with all of the covers and stuff that's coming out, I designed all of them, and like the merch on my website, I did all of that, and it's just such a fun little like outlet where like I know that I'm no professional in that realm, but it's still really fun to have my own like personal hand in all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Royalty, that's the most recent single that came out in February. And I think that is such a neat song to remind like listeners of our identity in God and, you know, who
Mm.
he is to us and who we are to him, just to remember that. It's so important. So what can you tell us about that song?
Ooh, that one's fun. The ending of that song is my favorite. It's just a little instrumental thing, but it's this like little jazzy lick, and it's like it's so fun. I want to write a song based off of just that, but I'm getting distracted. but no, royalty is like you said. It's again about your identity in Christ, and it's saying I need salvation. Like I need God. I need you, and I'm not ashamed that I need you, because I know that even though I am not completely enough, I know that you are, and I know that I am royalty because of you. And that again is kind of me talking to my younger self, saying like, hey, you don't need to feel lesser than. I know that you're not able to figure everything out, but God has it. God sets your identity as his daughter and his child, and that doesn't just make you his child, it makes you an heir. Like talking about Romans, I think it's like 18:6, like we are heirs of God, we are co-heirs with Christ, like this, that you are a child of God and royalty because of that. And I think for me, it's also a good like sense of where we also put God, that he's not just a father. Well, even though him being our father is a huge thing, he is also like king of this entire earth. He has like everything in his hands. Easily he can like direct our life. And so that's kind of like I wanted to capture the reverence that God has, and also like the confidence that we have in our identity in him.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have more new music on the way soon, leading up to the debut EP release that we're really
Mm.
excited about. Can't wait for that whole thing to be out. What is something that you hope listeners like, will resonate with when they listen to your music?
I hope that they will resonate with, like, this is something that's helped my journey, especially when it comes to identity, all of the things like identity, dealing with anxiety, dealing with worth. Like, is just like when Hagar titles God the God who sees me, that is something that I have just like, that has held my heart in times that I needed it. Um, like knowing that even if you're dealing with depression, even if you're dealing with mental health, you are seen in that. If you're being bullied, if you're being beaten down, God sees you in that. You're not alone. Because the biggest lie that depression will tell you is that you're alone in how you're feeling, or that nobody cares. But that is just like a lie from the enemy. That verse just tells you God sees you. Like you are his. He is there weeping with you in those moments. Like he is with you throughout those struggles. And so that's something that I just hope people will be able to hear throughout the music, that you can be confident in who you are in Christ, and also that you're not alone in that. So
Mm.
that's the title of my EP. This will be a little preview, a little sneak peek. Is Heir, Heir. It's again that verse that talks about how we are co-heirs with Christ, and we are heirs of God. And it's just, again, putting God in that seat of reverence, that seat of power, and saying, that is him, and this is who he makes me. And I think the songs on the EP are that. That's who he is from the EP. Royalty is from the EP. Clarity is from the EP. I actually have a song releasing again from the EP in about a couple weeks now, a month maybe, called Offering. That is a softer side of me, but it is about offering up that struggle to God and letting him take control of it.
Yeah, that is really cool. Can't wait to hear that song as well. You've had the opportunity to play some of the biggest festivals in the Northeast, like Hill Fest and Hope Fest. And it's awesome to see how like your platform has been able to kind of get elevated and get your music out there to those audiences. That's so, so cool. And then you've also been able to open for several CCM artists. What has been, you touched on it a little bit, like with the connection with people, but what are some of your favorite parts of being able to perform live and to be a part of like festivals in particular?
Ooh, okay. There's so many facets of this that I love. So definitely just meeting people. I am a very social being, but more than that, it's like I have seen God turn some of like the biggest struggles, the biggest pains in my life for good through that. Like when I was 14, like a big part of my testimony is that I was assaulted, and I had to heal from that and grow from that from a very young age. And it brings up a lot of questions of why God. And it's a question that can't be left unanswered. And that's the answer that I found, was that God uses everything for good. And so like there are girls or guys that come up to me after shows that when I talk about that from stage, they're like, "Hey, this happened and I don't know how to get help." Or, "Hey, like this happened a long time ago and it's still hurting," or, "I feel alone." And I get to talk to them about how God sees them, and also about the things that helped me, like verses and praying to God and having a Christian therapist, or different things like that that just helped me through those moments. And that's kind of what I love so much about performing live. Besides the fun of being on stage, the fun of singing, the fun of like interacting from the platform part of it, it's more so the actual connecting with people afterwards and getting to use my testimony, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So that's what
absolutely.
I love. And also, the performing live is so fun. Like my band, they're all way cooler than me. Like if you get to meet them, it's so fun. Like they're like, "Oh," casually saying, "I'm the bassist for Corey Asbury," or "I'm like," all this kind of thing. And it's so fun because like they let me just do my thing. Like I don't have to worry about any of their parts. They're so talented, and there's just this chemistry of friendship, like around all of us, and we just get to like somebody will do something like play a wrong chord, or not really, they never do that honestly, but like play like a funny line that is like a reference to something during a rehearsal, or like something that made us laugh during then, like on stage, just to kind of have that moment of joy or connection. Like it's, I don't know, performing live is so fun, and getting to like sing the new songs for everybody and see how people react, see if it's the kind of see if it's something that I'm like, okay, like I'm ready to release this, or like stuff like that. I'm kind of rambling, but performing live is literally my favorite part of the job.
Yeah, that's got to be really, really awesome. And to just go back a little bit to how you're talking about like when you share your testimony and then being able to relate to the people in that way, to the younger kids especially,
Mm.
I think that is so awesome. And it's one of the ways that God can use the circumstances that have either, traumas that we've experienced or
Yeah.
just different things that he's been able to help us through. I just think that that's so neat to be able to see that in action and put that in action
Hmm.
with people. And I think that it definitely helps have a deeper connection with your audience and your listeners. And it, helps the music to connect with them even more as well, knowing where your heart is and where these songs came from for you.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of thing that I was talking about just willing to be vulnerable, since it's not always easy to share some of like the hardest things that you've been through, especially in front of hundreds of people that you don't know. And but the cool thing about it is that I get to say, this isn't supposed to be about me. This isn't supposed to be about my nerves. This is me trying to be faithful to what God gave me, which is this platform or the song or just kind of what he's done in my life. And if I'm able to just go up and say, hey, this is what God has brought me confidence through. And that's like just that's what doing stuff live is.
Yeah, and then talking a little bit more about like the fun side of it and getting to, have that
Yeah.
camaraderie between your band members, especially. That's awesome. So as I mentioned, you had the opportunity to open for a lot of CCM artists and share different stages with them. So who are a few that you would love to go on tour with someday?
Oh, that is such. There are so many that I would love to go on tour with. Like, let me think. Allison Ide. I think she like. I love other when I see other young girls in Christian music doing something, standing up for something, talking about their testimony. So I think it would be fun to do like a co-tour with that. Just like since usually in the industry you're touring with guys, uh, just like a side note, usually you're touring with like guys who are much older who they're still amazing to tour with. I am so grateful for the stuff for the times I've gotten that. There's also a different type of friendship and connection when it comes to a girl that's my own age. Um, and so I would love that just because that would be fun. I feel like it would be like a girls' trip. Um, but I love the Newsboys. I think they have been so like the Newsboys and Casting Crowns were just like growing up. That's the music that I listened to, and so I think that would be a dream come true.
Yeah, that would definitely be amazing, and I could totally see that working out. Yeah, I think Alice and I would be a really great, like that would be an awesome tour with you too, because your stories and personalities and music would just be so awesome to hear, like on the same night, being able to share, and then, oh yeah, that would just be really cool. I would totally love to see
Yeah.
that, and I think that's something that I've noticed a lot recently is there are a lot of younger like female artists coming up that are
Hmm.
so talented and they have such an awesome message to share, and I have been very blessed to be able to have had conversations with quite a few of them recently in recent months, and
Awesome.
it's just so inspiring and encouraging to me, even though you guys are quite a bit younger than me. But it's just so
Oh.
so cool. I love seeing that, and it kind of like it goes back to when I talked a little bit about camp and just knowing that, there's those kind of examples out there that you ladies are setting. And oh, it's just so, like I said, it's really inspiring and encouraging to me as well. So I cannot wait to see like where the rest of the year goes and how your music and where God takes you and all these other very amazing female artists coming up. It's so exciting.
It's so fun. And like so like often in music circles, there's like even in Christian music circles, there's this encouragement of competition that really just baffles me. Like there is no winning in music in my opinion. Like there we each have different testimonies, different sounds, different songs that we're going to write in our lifetime that God like has are going to use to reach different people. Like that's what it is. We're all just trying to put ourselves out there. So that's why it's been so cool to see the uptake in female Christian artists and get to like kind of like just support them and cheer them on. Like it's fun. Like Jaren, love them. Love them so much. We're friends, and like, and also like I went on a, just to list off some more. Like Grace Graber is doing amazing. I love her sound, and I went on a label trip with where Claire Leslie was there. If you've heard of her, her songs are amazing. Like it's just so fun to get to like see this and get to kind of, instead of like competition, try and cultivate that friendship, that like kind of like the female like girls trip vibe, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
absolutely. And that's something that I've noticed. Like, I'm also kind of in like the small business realm too, a little bit.
mhm.
And so, something that is a reoccurring theme is community over competition. So, like
Oh yeah,
cultivating the friendships, recognizing that we all have different talents and we all have different skills and different like ways of seeing things. So, even if we're doing something similar, like a similar art or a similar craft form, whatever it may be, there's still room for all of that because God
yeah,
gives us all the individuality and uniqueness to be able to use those, like we were talking about earlier, the talents and gifts and give them back to Him. So, yeah, it's just really,
yeah,
really cool to see all the different styles that are coming up in music and what everybody's being able to represent and how they're sharing their stories. It's just, I love it so
yeah.
much.
And
Mhm.
our goal should not be to further ourselves. Like even though we're all like in, this is technically an area of business, that should not be our heart, that should not be our mindset. Our mindset should be sharing the love of God and bringing the most people into the kingdom as possible. Like that is where our head should be. And that, when you think like that eliminates the idea of competition. And that's why it's so fun to just get to to champion small businesses, other artists. Like since I know I'm still just starting out, and I have so appreciated the people who have championed me. And like Hillfest and Soulfest, like I didn't even have a single out before Hillfest invited me. Like or Soulfest, like main stage. Like they were taking a chance on me. They were supporting a local New England artist, and it just means the world to me. And it ended up being just such a life-changing experience.
Yeah, that is so, so cool. So we've talked a little bit. You've got more music on the way, and I'm sure you'll be
Mhm.
out there performing different places this summer. But is there anything else that you can share that you're looking forward to as 2025 continues?
So there definitely is some new music. I may or may not be going into the studio next week to finalize some recordings. Um, and also, I should be announcing a little summer tour pretty soon. A little EP release tour that I'm very excited about. So,
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Can't wait to hear more about it. Yeah, I want to encourage everyone. Make sure you connect with Rachel online. I will link all of her social media pages down below in the description of this video. And be sure to listen to her singles, That's Who He Is, Clarity, Royalty, and be on the lookout for the new EP coming very soon. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today. This was awesome.
oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for just inviting me on the podcast. This is so fun.